comment if you're going to use this status of suspend. These messages that pop up can be hard errors so that the user cannot continue with their save, or they can be like a warning message or an information message. It doesn't have to be a hard error. Another example is for our IT developers. Because we use incidents to track production changes, they are required to complete certain fields because they have to meet CMMI standards. But we can't just make these fields required because not every incident comes to IT developers. So we have some custom fields and the validation policies so that we can tell that if an incident ever was routed to the IT group for development, then they are required to fill in these fields on this form section that has the fields for IT. Okay. Change management, just briefly, I was going to mention that we have this wish list entity, which is the same thing as requests for changes. In wish list changes and incidents, we basically have the same set of fields. And number one, that makes it easier for the users because they see the same, they see the same basic form layout in each entity. And it also makes it easy because if you transfer information from one entity, like a wish list becomes a change, it's easy to have the system copy all the fields from one entity to another. So what we do, for example, in our wish list module is that's where we track all of the approvals for the wish list to actually become an approved change to be worked. And so all the change board meetings, all the notes from the change board meetings, all the documentation about the estimate for how long it's going to do this change are done in the wish list. And once it's approved in wish list, then the system creates an approved change in the change entity, copies all the fields over, and the change is then ready to be actually worked. And you don't have all the extraneous information in the change itself about how it became approved to be worked. However, on the change, you always have a link back to the wish list that created it, and that's where you go to see all the notes about, the estimate and when can they do it and when did the change board approve it. And on the wish list, it has one of these electronic signature fields, so you can also see exactly who approved it on the change board. Okay. Then just totally separately, we have what really is a true help desk, and these are several users that are in our shared services group that actually do answer phone calls all day long, and they're answering calls related to the timekeeping system we use. And so they needed a quick and easy little form to enter these calls so that they could start tracking not just metrics, but also they could actually do some knowledge management and determine why they keep getting these calls. So I set up a separate workspace for them. So it's in our Kovair environment, but it's a separate workspace so that when these users log on, they're taken to what's called CAT calls, because the system's called CATs, and they don't even see the OneSource incidents, changes, or wish lists. And so they're totally segregated, the data's totally segregated, the users are totally segregated, and it's just a very simple system for them to use. This whole configuration of this new workspace took 4 hours from start to finish to set up for the users, and they were up and running in less than a day. On this simple timekeeping help desk system, we have these fields that have dependencies, and because there's probably 40,000 users that use this timekeeping system, it was very important for them to get very specific about why people are calling to request help. And so we build these dependencies between these fields. For example, when primary reason for call is selected, only certain values are shown here in the sub-reason, but you can select, the user can select multiple values in the sub-reason. So it gets pretty specific. And the management team has definitely users to help them become more familiar with the timekeeping system. Dashboards and reporting. I wanted to just mention that this is all standard functionality, and it's very helpful in Kovair to set up dashboards, especially for the managers that log on to kind of see a status of what's going on. This example here is a dashboard from the CATS timekeeping help desk system. They like to know what's going on in the last 7 days, what's the count of all the calls they're getting. There's always a drill, when you have a little pie chart on your dashboard, there's always a drill down to the supporting items, and then you can actually drill down to an individual item if you wanted to see it. In our OneSource environment, we have a little meter that is a very quick read to determine if we're doing good or not. And so this one is used to look at the average hours at ESG. Again, you can drill down to see what the supporting items that make up that metric, and then you can drill down actually to individual items. Standard functionality of Kovair again here. This is just a standard report. It's very, very easy to create. And once this report is created and ready, to be run, you can actually schedule it, and it can just generate an email and be emailed to whoever wants to receive it. We send out this particular report daily, but we also send out other reports once a week and some once a month. We also have extracted some of our data to our SAP Business Warehouse. We're very big on metrics, and this is one of the, we could never have done this with any other system. The reason, we have very, very detailed metrics on our incidents and even on our changes. And because we are able to have so many custom fields specifically around aging and date fields and all kinds of things, we can extract many fields and pass them to SAP Business Warehouse, and the info cubes are already all defined, so we just pass new data every week, and it populates all these metrics for us. And there are, like I showed you, there are standard dashboards in Kovair, but some of our executives, well, most of our executives don't log into Kovair, so they would never see them. So we had to put them on a portal to let people have access to them. This is just another example of our open incident metrics. Future goals, one of the things that we're going to try to do this year is we would like to get our true end users, what we would call level 1 end users, access to a web page to create an incident or get the status on an incident. And Kovair has that omnibus integration technology that will let us do that. We just haven't had time to get to it yet. Then the other thing we want to do is, instead of using our SAP Business Warehouse, we would like to have the reports that Kovair can produce and the dashboards shown on an enterprise portal. So we're working on that. And then finally, the email that we have now that we use is all notification emails. But we also, Kovair does have the ability to update records in Kovair based on an email. And so we're going to work on building that integration into our implementation. We didn't want to do it at first at Go Live because we thought we didn't know from a more of a user process standpoint how that would work out. So we're going to work on that this year. Okay. I think that's all I have, Sky.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. Let me transfer it to me. So if you have some questions, please use the panel, the question panel on your GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar window. In the meantime, actually, I have got a couple of questions, Joe, for you. One question is that how long did it take to implement the whole process, that incident process you just described, and how many people were involved in that?